Can you talk to us a little bit about your journey with the podcast? You are a podcast host. I did forget to mention that at the start, and what
Yeah.
made you wanna get into podcasting? Because someone like yourself, such experience doing what you're doing, you love what you're doing. Why the podcast? And what's your vision?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that happened in the podcasting journey. So I had one to start with, which was called Raise 1000 Voices, and it ran out of steam, as in I ran out of steam. So it's still on the platform. It's 24 episodes. We changed it to being a limited series because it didn't have my heart. And that, as you know, you've got to have heart for this, right? And so it didn't have my heart. It was a great idea, and I really enjoyed some of the conversations, but it didn't have my heart. I just went, and I'm a big believer in hitting the kill switch when you need to. So that was the first iteration. Then speaker driven business, which, we didn't market, we didn't launch. We're about to hit 50,000 downloads. And we're about to change gears with it as well. There was a couple of things. I wanted something, my primary driver was service. So I want to democratize access to the basics of speaking and selling because it changes people's lives. I'm expensive as a coach. My programs are high ticket, right? There's no doubt about it. We've launched our first ever membership site because we now have the audience to do that. And that's a low cost. But then there's also people who can't even do that, right?
Mm.
So I know the impact that learning how to use my words made for me, and I would not be here. And it's not just like the way up, it's also like that spectacular failure I had in 2016. It was brutal. I would not have been able to recover from that if I didn't have language, right? And I wasn't able to speak and to pitch and to sell despite the social media firestorm and traditional media firestorm that was going on. So speaker driven business was created. I was like, we were creating all this content. We still do for our free Facebook community, as many people do in this space. I was like, well, why? That's still a firewall. They're still be on Facebook and they're still to come in. They're still to answer questions.
Mm.
And so the whole thing was, how much of what I do can I get out from behind the firewall, right? Of any description. So most people see the Facebook community as they're free. It's actually not. People have got to give their time. People got to find you. People got to answer questions. People got to show up. So I decided to do the podcast. What's happened with it is, as an educator, I've loved the format. We get messages almost every day of the week now from someone stumbling across it who are grateful for the way that we actually teach on it. Like I actually teach on it. We're going to shift it up a little bit. So it's a combination of teaching and inspiring and showing what's possible. But my heart with this is, when I first went into wanting to teach people how to speak, I very much wanted everyone to have access. I very much, because those who actually want to move forward, the power of speech, the power of pitching, the power of selling well changes your future, right? 100% changes your future. And why should that be an elite level of access, right? I get that it needs to be for me one-on-one. I get that it needs to be in our programs, but there should also be a way that people can actually access it full stop. And that's my heart behind it. The fact that it's working, I find extraordinary. It's not big numbers yet on the basis of, podcast world. I have girlfriends have 5 million downloads and 10 million downloads. But we launched it. We didn't launch it. That's wrong terminology. We just sent it live. We didn't market it. We've just been producing it. I've taken a couple of breaks, which is also a no-no, and it's still working. And I'm like, okay, let's get serious. The second reason that I wanted to do it was I wanted to be able to do something that I wasn't caught in content churn. So, when we do the podcast, like what you said to your people about doing the workshops, when we do the podcast, it goes across multiple platforms. We extract lots of things from it. There's great content ideas for my marketing team. And so all of a sudden we had a way of me just doing one thing that could be used lots of different ways. And it's worked really well. What I would say though, is there are a lot of people out there, as you know, who are doing podcasts for the same reasons, and they're not actually getting traction or growth, right? So you've got to make sure that what you're giving is enough value that people want more of it. And that's what's happening. So even without, and now we'll drive the campaigns and we'll drive the traffic and we'll elevate to the next level. But it was in complete service to the audience. And that's why it's worked, even though we didn't do any of the things we were supposed to do. So, I work with people quite often. You would come across them as well. They produce 100 podcast episodes. They're like multi-purposing it, but it's not actually giving them traction and growth. And so if that's what's happening, you got to hit the kill switch and go again. If you love podcasting, find a better way to do it. And there's people out there, as you know, Shagira, there's people out there who are doing amazing jobs that you can model.
So you're wondering the value in being a podcast guest. Think about it. You want to build your personal brand. Is it important as ever? And coming on this show allows you to do just that. You're able to leverage our audience, but not only that, you're able to leverage the content from this podcast. As you clock up the hours someone spends with you, the longer time someone spends listening to your story, your solutions in the marketplace allows you to do something special. It allows you to build a community and build a brand. You can leverage the community here, but you can also leverage the content from this show to be able to use where? On LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where you're going to shine. LinkedIn is where you're going to generate leads. So whoever you are, you want to come and tell your story. You want to be able to come in and be a guest that allows you to build your brand. Link in the description, we'll get in touch. So join our waiting list to feature on the Rubasha Family Podcast. Yeah, just like the way we did, like here in Australia when we first started, I started to see like a lot of Australians that were just like on audio, and then we took the model of the Americans. I really love what they were doing, so it was like, you know what, we can do that here, and so we just kind of took it to a whole new level. And a lot of the things that you're saying is so true. And even like I tell people, like this, like you said, you got to have that heart in it. It's a long-term game, right? It is a long-term game. Like your podcast is a media company. And when you think of it like that, that also hit a switch in my mind as well. I started to see, this is not just a podcast. This is a media company, right? And so you think media company, 50, 40, 60-year game, but it's so powerful. Like you said, when you can just have the distribution to show people who you are and how, like, speaking is such a passionate, it's an emotional thing, like pitching and entrepreneurs wanting to do better, like, the sky is the limit for you guys. And I can see it, that's why, like, I wanted to speak to you on the show. I wanted to reach out to you because I could see that.
Yeah, thank you. And we're, yourself and, probably going to be working with you. Our team's probably going to work with you. Our training was on YouTube. I was just lucky that I had recorded from day one on video, right? And my team was saying, my production team for the podcast was saying, we need to get you onto YouTube. So they've loaded them now, but we've got no strategy behind it. But we also know people are finding it through YouTube. So, and what I'm saying to all my speakers as well is like, get your content onto YouTube that is repurposed to a podcast, not the other way around, because you need people to fall in love with you and to find you, right? And so that's our next foray is we'll up the ante with the podcast, but also understanding how to go YouTube first rather than podcast first.
And it's interesting because my weakness was the audio side. It still is. That's what we have just someone. I said, please just take care of that because like people, and I was telling people, like, going in this room, like, guys, listen, Google owns YouTube. So when they're searching for your solution, like when someone Googles your name, video YouTube is what pops up. So if you're just visible, if you have the audio, but that YouTube presence is so powerful. Like you said, people want to do speaking like we're doing with the workshops. What about if someone can go in and they can go in and watch 4 or 5 hours of you speaking when you're sleeping, when you're not in the room, before I go into meetings, people have already consumed my content. They've already seen me speaking in front of other people. Like this, guys, it's like I can get passionate and I can go all day, and it's great to.
There's a couple of things I'd love to and I'm the same. Like you can see, we're both really excited right now. But there's 2 things I want to mention here, and I can't believe one was a light bulb that went off for me in a conference in Bali last week, and I can't believe it's just gone off. But it started actually in 2018 at a conference, and Frederick Harron, who at the time was one of our most highly paid professional speakers in the world, delivered his full-blown $50,000 keynote, and then he unpacked it for us, right? And he also talked about, he did an experiment, I can't remember if it was 2016 or 2017, where he put every single keynote he did for the year, something like 40 or 50 keynotes, every single one of them went onto YouTube in full. And everyone's like, you're insane. You are crazy. And he was like, I was so well established, I knew I could afford to do the experiment. And what happened was his fees doubled and his demand tripled. And everyone's saying, you can't give it all away. And I was like, and the thing that solidified for me out of that is we will pay a fortune to go and watch our favorite rock star in a concert and get VIP, and it might be a couple of $1,000 or whatever it might be. But we have their CDs, or we have these days their streaming, we have their Spotify and their music, we have it every day, but the ability to experience. And so that's what he did. He tapped into that rock star effect.
Mm,
And the thing that really hit for me, because I'm going to go back to professional speaking myself, I haven't been speaking professionally since mid-COVID,
mhm,
because before COVID, I spoke on resilience. Everybody became an instant resilience expert in COVID. And I was just like, I'm out of the, I hate being in the noise. I'm out. I'll just keep my coaching business running. I'll work out. I'm coming back in now. I've got my next topic. But it was like I was trying to work out, how do I speak for my business and how do I speak for my personal brand? Because they're actually two different purposes. Even though they interlink, they're
mm.
two different things. So we've been trying to work it out. And at the conference, I was sitting there one day and I went, oh, I do all my speaking for the business on YouTube, and I'll do all my speaking for my professional speaking on the stage. Right. It's like it was just this light bulb moment went off, because YouTube is a stage.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Mm,
Yep. Yep. I
yeah,
love that. And it's funny because like when we were even organizing workshops with the clients, I said, it does not matter if one or two people are in that room. The fact that we are documenting this, because I had seen that in Australia, people were doing these workshops speaking, and like no one had, if you didn't document it, it didn't even happen. So it's like it doesn't matter how many people in the room. Of course, you're going to give so much value and energy and passion, because a lot of these CEOs, it's kind of like me, the way I am passionate about this, they have passion about what they do. Give
absolutely.
passion in what you're doing. But now the fact that we can just have this camera here recording is powerful, because now you have that stage and people can go in and spend time with you.
If you really enjoyed this video, make sure to click here, and I'm sure you're going to love that one.